Sunday, partly sunny with a chance of showers and a high of 76. That's your weekend forecast. And I'm JB.
This is All About Home Construction. And here's your hosts, Terry Cannell Beck and Randy Blake.
That's right. Good morning, Randy Blake.
Morning, Terry, and everybody out there.
That's it. Happy Saturday, buddy, and happy steak dinner Saturday.
Yes, it is. Oh, don't forget salmon.
Salmon. Happy steak dinner and salmon Saturday. It sounds better anyway.
Yeah, and we do have vegetarians out there, so you can have a baked potato and salad for $8.
There you go. So, well, welcome. All About Home Construction, and yes, it is VFW Steak Salmon Saturday.
This will be the first meal that we have that we will be offering wine.
Ooh, that's right. Congratulations, yeah.
14 months to pull that off.
Nice. All right. Well, good stuff. So, yeah, head on over there. You've moved it up, too, time-wise.
Yeah, to 3 o'clock, because we had some seniors.
Fair. That's fair.
The deck is done, so you do not have to come through the smoking part.
Nice.
So you can come right down the side.
And with the college kids out, the tourists aren't quite in yet. It's not been Memorial Day, so traffic should be easy to get in and out, too.
Yes, it should. So, it's been great, actually.
So there you go. Well, cool stuff. So head on over to the VFW tonight, 3 o'clock, and it'll be good stuff. Good stuff.
And just remember, we're all volunteers, so we're not perfect people.
All right? You're perfect enough in my book.
Well,
but it's good food. I mean, it really is, and it's top-notch food.
We try our best.
That's awesome. So, it's cool stuff. Well, before we get into it, I want to thank all of our listeners out there. We got a couple. We were just talking a moment ago with Lois over in Fosco. We appreciate her listening and all the other listeners out there that we got. So thank you so much. And we couldn't do the show without you. That's why we do it.
Correct.
And if you're listening to us, and, I know a lot of people are listening to us on WATA on the radio, but you can also check us out on the podcast. And when you do that, if you like it and then comment or something like that, it actually boosts us up, and so more people get to listen. And so all the people around the world that are listening to us right now can listen.
Yep.
And you can go back. That to me, that's the best part, right? Is you hear it live on the radio. Now you can go back and listen to it and catch up what you missed, or maybe you need to go like, what did they say again? Wait, like next week you can go back and do it because it's all there.
Well, I have to thank Terry for that now.
That's the fun part, man. And it's all on YouTube now. So if you don't listen to regular podcasts, you can find it up on YouTube. All About Home Construction. So everybody has YouTube now.
Oh, yeah. I use it from time to time.
I use it more than I want to admit, I'm sure. So, but I'm also the guy who pays for this. There's this history channel thing. It's a history called History Fix. It's like an app, but it's just documentaries. So that's what I use YouTube and that app. Like I just watch random stuff. It's great. You want to know? You want to know the biggest thing I've been into lately when it comes to wasting my time is the old school Paul Harvey. The rest of the story.
Oh, I wish Paul Harvey was still alive.
I loved those things, and I loved them back in the day. We used to air them here at the radio station back in the day. But I found where you can go back and listen to them all, and so I listened to like one or two every day. Like, oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
because it's still cool stuff.
WQUT out of Johnson City had it on lunchtime.
Yep. I mean, I remember here on WATA we had it. We put it a couple times a day in the morning and the afternoons, and it's great. Anyway, so that's been my recent wasting time.
That's all right.
So.
But think about the history involved with Paul Harvey.
Oh, I know. I would love to be able to write like Paul Harvey. Anyway. My thing with Paul Harvey, like the rest of the story, is like you got to start listening, and I try to see how early on I can guess the answer. Like it's like a challenge.
Yeah.
And sometimes, a lot of times, I don't get it to the end.
You know who's doing that now, don't you?
Who's that?
Mike Rowe.
So he did. He's changed his up, but he had his for the first several years. He's been doing this for a couple years now, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of that, but yeah, his was exactly like that. And then he started getting longer and stuff. And my attention span, after that much time, my attention span goes somewhere else. So. But anyway, enough about other podcasts because people should listen to our podcast. So,
well, we hope so.
That's what we want. That's what we want. So
Or come eat with me.
come eat with you. You know, I'm telling you, I'm trying to get over there before the soccer game today. So we'll see what happens. If I do, maybe I'll bring some stickers and we'll hook some people up with stickers.
All right.
So, there we go. Fun stuff. Well, what's been going on in the world of construction, man?
Well, you know, the world still is in turmoil, or Watauga County.
Fair.
And we're hearing, like, I got a gentleman finally got a trailer from FEMA coming next week.
Been this long.
That's a long time. I don't know if it's true or not, but, you know, I was told that there were 700 trailers in the state of North Carolina.
Right.
That sort of kind of disappeared and went to California after the fire.
I've heard that rumor floating around as well.
You know, I can't count it as fact.
Yep.
I know I did watch on the news this morning that there were trailers down state and around Charlotte area that FEMA had set up and moved people there. And now the time is coming up. They're going to give them a reduced rate on buying the mobile home.
Right.
But they have to pay to have it moved.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody's going, well, you know, the flood tore our homes up. There's no insurance.
Yeah.
And some of the people, you know, that had to leave their jobs and everything and just start over.
Yep. Well, what I can say, you know, fact-wise, is in my personal network of friends, I don't know anyone that actually got one.
So,
I mean, that's you know, that's the thing. I know some people who living with in-laws and things like that, and but that, you know. So I don't know the ins and outs, but certainly. But we're seeing it, and you know, in this past week we had some flooding rains, and I think it every time it happens for the next little while, every time we get flood type rains, flash floods and all, it's just devastating again because the water's still trying to settle, you know, the ground's settling.
Well, that was totally amazing the other day because I know we've had 6-inch rain storms and didn't produce as much high water as this last one did because down below my house they were working on that the river, Watauga River below Mass Gap, and they'd moved their equipment up, which should have been high enough, and the water got up on the equipment.
Yeah.
And
well, again, I think it's a lot of factors, but you know, when you got, for one, you got every creek bed and river banks are out, you know, but from the flood now all that's gone, and so there's more water coming from that. It's not slowing it down, and then all these new rock slides and mudslides are just
had a tree, hit a house here in Boone.
So yeah, that's
it's going to be a while before we get out of this.
I think so, and I don't know. I don't have the answer, but it's definitely was rough the other day. And I think a lot of people kind of that, for lack of a better word, PTSD on it, you know, that trauma kicking in too. You know, but it's crazy.
Yes, it is. Somebody told me there's another house on Harrods Creek getting ready to come down.
I hadn't been up through there since, you know, the winter. So.
Well. All the creeks have changed.
Yep. Well, and it's crazy to go through and see, and you know, just I don't know. It's just wild. I mean, the biggest one that stands out to me because it was just so rough looking before was where they're building the bridge there at Valley Crucis, you know, at Broadstone.
Yeah.
When you're coming from town and you start looking back up towards Hound Ears there, how that just, if you took two pictures and put them side by side and cropped out the buildings and stuff, that you wouldn't realize it was the same river.
Correct.
You know.
Well, you know, if the dam was still there.
There wouldn't have been a dam. I think that this probably would have took that dam out.
Yeah, but just think how far it would have backed up water.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that part, but I think that dam, the way that was falling apart already, I think that this would have took it out.
I don't know. It didn't knock the dam down Crab Orchard.
That's fair.
It's still up there, and it was built during the same time period that one was.
That's fair.
Or so I was told. I don't know if that's true or not because I got permission to go back in that holler because they'd had it posted for decades, and they just said, well, you're going to have to fight the trees because I figured, you know, I used to do it in 8 hours, go up, leave the bottom and fish the top and fish back. I figured it'd take me 2 days to get through it.
Wow.
So, That was my favorite spot when I was a kid.
That's cool.
You never saw anybody. Wasn't no trash. Good fishing.
Nice. Well, you just raised a question. What's the fishing industry looking like here in the high country? How bad at this point, right in the spring? How bad is it affected the trout?
Well, I'd say pretty bad, but I hadn't talked to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I look in the creek and you don't see as many minnows as
Right.
you did.
Yeah.
I'm seeing people fishing, but I also know the state's stocking.
Right.
But the only problem we have with that is all the fish the state stock are sterile.
Yeah.
So if the only way we're going to get repopulation is what wild trout did survive
Right.
the flood.
Yeah.
And if they can find a rock big enough to get behind, that's how they do it.
Sure.
But a lot of these big rocks moved.
Right, and that's the scary part for the fish.
Every Saturday when I get through with the radio show, I go out to Kraut Creek here and I look. Mm-hmm. And I've not seen any big chubs like we had in the creek.
Right.
Most everything right now is about an inch.
Yeah, and even that is a lot fewer than what we saw last summer. For sure. So.
And we have one time there was about a 15-inch rainbow out there, mm-hmm. and I seen about an 8-inch brook one time.
Yep.
And I guess the greatest thing was I seen that muskrat out there.
Yeah. There's been a lot of controversy when it comes to the rivers and streams. The Army Corps of Engineers has came through in different places in the state where they're cleaning out the rivers basically, and and I know a lot of people. There's a lot of controversy. Is that good? Is that bad? But I think with these floods, we've seen sort of the positive of it, like it or not. And it's. I guess that's an interesting thing. I would, that. What do we do? Do we dredge them out or not, clean them out or not? And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of debate on it.
We were always told we couldn't get in a river or a creek.
Right.
Okay. And if something falls in there, you can get it out by hand. But if you got a tree stuck out there in the river and you can't get to it, then you have to hire somebody with a piece of equipment long enough to reach out there and get it.
Right.
Now, they can do that, but they can't put a track in there. Now, the Army Corps engineer have hired these folks to do it.
Right.
Now, they can. But that was a couple of weeks ago. I was up Big Helton Creek, and now they've got it looking like a canal.
Right.
And it's going to take Mother Nature a while to correct it. But something's got to be done, because if it's not, we're not going to, like this 6-inch rain we had the other day. We should never had a flood on a 6-inch rain. I'm not so sure that we don't have adequate water in there. They still have us under a drought monitor.
Right.
But these heavy rains also run off pretty fast.
Sure.
They don't sink.
Well, I saw where they were draining one of the lakes there, other side of Asheville, where they drained it and are trying to clear out all the trash and stuff. It's crazy. It's still crazy.
Because like I say, I'm a hunter. I'm a fisherman. Mm-hmm. The trees have to cover the water to cool the water for the trout.
Right.
And but I hadn't heard a count on. Remember when Blowing Rock had the chemicals that spilled from the water plant?
Yep.
And come down the South Fork of the New River?
Yep.
They were able to come up with an estimation on the wildlife that was lost. And then I'm talking about the insects that live in the river.
Right.
And crayfish, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those little buggers, I know they're by the millions in the creek, but you take the force of that water and boulders, it don't take much to kill them either.
Right.
Even though they have a hard shell.
Yep. Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy.
Well, it's just part of life.
That's it. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take our first break, and we'll jump back in all about home construction here after this. Thanks for listening to us. See you in a minute. Thank you so much for being part of the All About Home Construction community. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you the best content, and we're thrilled to have you as a valued listener. We want to thank the winners of our sticker contest: Elizabeth, Diane, Mark, Linda, Scott, Chuck, Deb, William, Katie, and Colin. We hope you guys enjoy the prize, and for everyone out there, don't forget to share the podcast with your families and friends. We'll have more contests soon, so everyone can be a winner. That's right. All About Home Construction here on WATA. Thanks for listening to us. And again, steak and salmon dinner on Steak and Salmon Saturday at the VFW. So go on over there at 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock and get your steak, get your salmon, get your baked potatoes, get your wine if you want wine. If you don't like wine, it's okay. You don't have to get it. So.
I'll probably be out of the 32 ounce.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I do have a couple 26.
Well, that's all right.
Randy does make mistakes when he's cuts.
Yeah,
so.
It's all right. 26 will work,
And,
or you get the regular and you just get 2 of those.
Yeah, you can do that too.
I mean, when you cook them well done like I need them, it's better that way.
Well, shoe leather,
Yeah, you make fun of me all you want. I just don't like raw food. I like to be healthy. Man invented fire and how to cook on fire. Long time ago, so I like to
hadn't changed, have
I figure that like we don't live in caves anymore. We don't need to eat raw meat, so it's all right. Anyway, seriously though, go over there and Randy does make a good steak, and I will eat your steak with a little pink in it. You know that. So
I have to do yours medium well.
I will take it. I will take it. So. All right, well, let's jump into our topic this morning. What do you think?
Let's do it.
You've got a very interesting topic. You actually came in and really chomping at the bit this morning.
Well, we recently got submitted a set of plans to price out. All right, and I started in the process of doing the quote and stuff and sending it to the subs and everything, and then I got to noticing, reading the fine print about it, that the homeowners wanted their heating and air unit upstairs in the vaulted part, like a loft area. Well, for you to run that ductwork through it had to be exposed ductwork. They wanted hidden ductwork.
Sure.
So the designer designed the house with tuba-tins. Well, 8-inch ductwork won't go through a tuba-tin. And then the span that he had to have, a tuba-tin will only span 12 feet 6 inches, 12.7, something like that. Well, his span was a 15.10.
So you're 3+ feet over.
Yeah. So I mean, the house would bounce.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't even build the house. Okay. Right. And this was a typical set of plans that we built down at the coast back in the 70s and 80s.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So was this something like somebody went on the internet and downloaded some plans? Or
no,
is this
he drew this for this couple. But that's the problem with these discount plans you can buy. You can buy a set of house plans for $600, which is great. All right. But they're copyrighted.
Yeah.
And so you can't take that to a designer and have him copy that plan again, because that's against the law.
Right.
But a lot of these plans don't meet our codes here.
Sure.
All right. Now you could take it to a truss manufacturer, which is legal, because they'll do the engineering for you.
Gotcha.
All right.
Gotcha.
And I'm a big fan of floor trusses. I'm not a big fan of roof trusses. But this house had to have a beam in it 42 foot long. One beam, not 2 beams. But it probably took a quad to span that, and then you had to deal with the weight of the beam sagging on its own.
Sure.
So I mean, there's a lot to it.
And when you say beam, are you talking a solid wood? You talking about LVL?
LVLs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
it just and it causes distress on the homeowner, because they've hired this person, they've already paid them.
Right. For essentially plans that are useless.
Correct.
So I mean that's interesting. So Do you think that this designer didn't know where the house was going to be built?
No, he told him he had designed homes in the mountains before.
See, that's very interesting to me. And again, when it comes to building in the mountains, it's so much different than at the coast, for example. Wind loads.
Snow loads.
I was going to say snow loads. Though wind, like we get wind, and people don't realize that we get 100-mile-an-hour winds. Like we can get tornado or hurricane strength winds. Here in the high country, but the snow loads are the biggest thing. And when so these coastal homes are built to hold up the high winds, but not built like the mountains to hold up the heavy snow or ice.
Correct. And most people don't realize that modular homes are 100-mile-an-hour homes. HUD can build them under their jurisdiction rules.
Which is a whole other discussion. I'm very confused on one. Sometime I'd love to dive into that because, I know they're different, but it still comes down to what will work and what won't work, and just because you change the rules doesn't change the science behind the rules.
Correct.
So
now I have a customer that is frustrated because they paid for a set of plans. They need to have a new set of plans designed to meet the high country.
Yeah.
And so I probably lost this job.
So is this, I guess they're all complete new plans. This isn't a go see an engineer and get it adapted.
Well, there'll be an engineer involved in this.
Right.
There's no choice because of the way you've got 1,600 square foot on one floor.
It's a lot of square foot.
There's no, and that's crawl space.
Right.
But then now you got to, the way it's designed, the garage wall is going to be over 12 foot tall.
Right.
And so 12 foot tall has to come into wind loads itself.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I hadn't thought of that.
Because you might end up having to have 2 baits in that garage wall.
Right.
Not 2 but 6s.
Well, and I thought too, when you were talking about the mountains, just last week down in southeastern Tennessee, they had that earthquake.
Yes.
And so that seismic stuff too, we deal with that in the mountains. And I could just, I don't know, I can think of building as a kid, building toy houses as a kid and how they fall down. I just envision this, bouncy house that's just falling down. And the ductwork thing cracks me up the more I think about it. You got 2 inches of clearance.
Well, that's
not going to hold anything up.
The first drawing had a stem wall, and which is 3 foot tall. Okay.
Right.
But it was filled totally with gravel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, $51 a ton. It took quite a bit of gravel to fill it up.
Yeah.
Then it had a poured slab on top of it, which went to the outside wall.
Okay.
Which didn't stop the thermal break from the cold coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can build slab on grade in the mountains.
Right.
The only problem is you got to go 2 foot in the ground with the concrete to try to capture that 57 degrees up under the slab. But it doesn't make any difference how much foam seal you put under that wall. That doesn't stop the cold from coming through the concrete into the living area.
Right.
See, it happens at the coast, but they don't stay cold, but just 3-4 days at a time.
Sure. Well, that's a huge thing when it comes to that freeze thaw kind of thing, and this. And I'm going to throw the water and flooding into that as well because we're talking about foundations. Foundations react different in the high country than they do at the beach. In that the soil is just different. I mean, it's even not on the actual beach itself. When you're down towards the coast, it's sandier. It's not as dense.
Correct.
As
but
it is.
A lot of construction at the coast now is you have to bring sand in. We were having to bring sand in on the lots we had.
Okay.
And they might be 3 or 4 tandem loads of sand.
Right.
So you can build your lot up, you pack it, and then you put your slab on grade so that all the way around the house angles 2 to 3 degrees away to keep the water from coming on.
Which here in the high country, we don't have to worry about that part because it's not. I mean, we're some kind of hill already. So getting that slope away from the house is a lot easier here.
Well, we have to do it here too, but
right, yeah. But what I'm saying is it's easier to do here. I would imagine.
But we've had some situations where we put about a 10% grade on it, or 10-degree grade on it, because we only got the banks 2 foot away from the house.
Yeah,
because of big rocks and stuff. I mean, there's different circumstances in every house you build.
Yeah,
but up here, our wind loads is what designs the seismic loads.
Sure. They work hand in hand.
Correct. Well, because, I asked the question when we're going to start building the seismic, and they said no. The mountains are built to wind loads. That's to help compensate for the seismic.
Gotcha.
But, I didn't feel it.
I didn't either.
But they said they felt it all the way to the coast.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting, again, just the science that has to go behind that. But I just keep thinking about, again, just the difference of building in the mountains versus the coast, for example. And you have so many environmental conditions too. Like, we talked about the seismic thing, the wind and the snow, but the air, how much effect, because wood moves with humidity.
Correct.
And somewhat temperature, but mostly the humidity that comes with the temperature, right? And when you get that salty, wet air versus the dry, cold air that we get in the winters there, do you have to worry about materials when it comes to the planning? In the engineering part, do you have to worry about materials or do you allow for that movement of the wood when it comes to the framing and comes to the actual foundations and stuff?
Well, it's always going to move. You being a hardwood flooring man, you see what the air conditioning does to it, and you see what the heat does to it.
Yep.
Most of your lumber is 19% moisture.
Sure.
And my thing is, the biggest thing is when you put your sheeting on, you need to make sure the bottom of your sheeting is glued on, which will stop moisture from coming up into the wall.
Right. It gives it that barrier.
We're allowed to build with foam. Because we can take a 2x6 wall, or we can actually do with foam if it's a standard 8-foot wall and use 2x4s and put T-bracing in it.
Right.
But what really bothers me about the foam is foam likes insects.
Yeah.
And they'll burrow through that foam and come right on the inside of your walls.
But they make foam with insecticides, right?
Well, it depends on the foam you get.
Okay.
Blue board does not have any in it.
Right.
Armax doesn't either. Right. It's the foam you got that's gray, has borax in it.
Okay.
For the insects. So what we always did was we made which I have a break, and we'd break a piece of metal to go all the way around the house, and we'd caulk the corners and put our foam in it so the insects couldn't come up through it.
Gotcha. Huh. Good stuff. All right, let's take a break. I got some more questions. Thanks for listening. The Boone VFW Post 7031 is looking at making improvements to their Veterans Memorial Wall, and you can help. Here's Chuck.
We could do engraved bricks to cover the memorial. It's in honor of the veterans who have served and some that have given their all for our country. And that's the one thing that we feel as the VFW that we can do to honor those who have come before and those who are even present today.
But Chuck, what do we have to do to participate?
You don't have to be a war veteran in order to be a part of this memorial. It's just that you served.
What is the cost?
That fee is only $50, but it's a lifetime investment.
If you would like to help participate by honoring a family member, a friend, or a loved one, you can contact the Boone VFW Post 7031 at 828-264-9570. They are on VFW Drive just off of State Farm Road here in Boone. Thank you for all that have served. That's right. All about home construction here on WATA. Thanks for listening to us. And thanks for all those listening on the podcast. All about home construction on the podcast or YouTube or wherever it is you're listening. And you know what? Give us a call, 828-262-1567 if you're listening on this Saturday morning. Or if you want to shoot us a message, all about home construction at gmail.com. is the email address, or the Facebook page, All About Home Construction. There's a couple ways you can get in touch with us there. And we like to get you on the air, your questions, your concerns, your comments, and we love it. We love it. So.
Yep.
And don't forget, Randy Blake is at the Rock and Roll Kitchen tonight at the VFW here in Boone, and cooking his steaks, cooking his salmon, cooking his baked potatoes, and
don't forget salad bar.
Salad bar, yeah. It's good stuff. 32-ounce steaks may be spoken for, but he's got some other bigger steaks.
Well,
and if not,
the meal's set up on 12-ounce.
All right. Well, I like a good. 12-ounce steaks. It's good. That's a good solid steak.
Yeah, I'm getting a little older now. I'll back down to a 10-ounce, but we just try to give everybody a good meal.
Yeah.
Which you've been there.
It's great food. It's great food. I'm trying to talk Leslie and coming in before the soccer game. See if we can't make it over there. So.
Well, come on. I'll
do it.
I'll feed you.
All right. I'll try. I'm trying.
I'll turn my apron backwards.
All right. All right. Thanks. Yeah, appreciate that. But no, come on over and fill up the VFW. I'd love to see people run you out of steaks again. And you've had a couple of big meals recently. It's a great weekend to get out here in the high country because the college kids are gone. The tourists haven't made it yet. Which, don't get me wrong, I like the tourists, but when it comes to traffic and driving around, it's great when there's no tourists and when there's no college kids. Yeah, it's a good Saturday. What else you gonna do on a Saturday night? You gotta have a date night.
Yeah, come on out.
It's been
Well,
that's 3 months since Valentine's Day. It's time to go get another date night in.
You brought a good subject up right there about people coming to the high country on vacation, and it's just not going to be the same for a while. I'm
a little worried about the infrastructure as far as the vacationing infrastructure, but yeah, I know, and there's so many roads under construction still, or got potholes and stuff. I was just driving through here in town. Old Bristol still has a big old stick, wooden stick sticking up to keep people from running off the edge there.
Well, some of the roads now are starting to crack again.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got undermined.
I was saying in front of my house was really, really bad. It looked like a washboard. And so they came in and they took all the asphalt up, and they basically dug it out and rebuilt it, repacked it with gravel. But now there's a 100-foot section that's just gravel. They said they'd come back and pave it, but they got so much other work going on that I don't know when they'll pave it.
Well, the DOT's overwhelmed.
Oh, 100%, and yeah.
And then you got 10,000 squeaky wheels, wanting to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I understand some of them, but they just can't do everything.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I know one thing. If you want mulch, now's the time to get it.
Correct.
There's mulch everywhere.
Well, a lot of it they're claiming's condemned.
Because it's got stuff in it. I was wondering what they're doing with that.
It's going to incinerators.
Okay.
There's an incinerator in Caldwell County.
Okay.
That produces electricity.
Okay.
From what I was told, I know that incinerator's down there.
I was curious where they're taking these big truckloads off. I mean, I've seen them driving around, but I didn't know where they're taking it.
But I just can't believe all of it's bad.
But it's. I agree, but how do you sort it? That's I think going to be the problem.
Well, it all come in as brush and tree trunks. Okay.
Yep.
Well, it's rained since all that happened, so there shouldn't be any contaminants on it.
Just the plastics, though. I mean, I drove through. Like you can drive through the high country. There's 2 or 3 different places here.
You got the one down 421 there. But that's the reason they built that house, so they can look in the trailer and tell them where they put it at.
Okay.
Because they got that.
I was wondering why they built that big. Looks like a big tree stand.
Yeah, but it's to look so they can look inside the truck for the junk, because they got that one pile down there.
Yeah, I did know that there's 2 different piles.
There's metal in it and trash and stuff like that. I don't know how they're going to get that out.
Yeah. But
you can't run that pile through the incinerator.
Right. Plastics, I guess you could.
Yeah, but there's a lot of metal.
A lot of metal. So, I don't know. It's been crazy for sure. But
that's the government. The government doing that.
Yep.
It's above our pay grade.
I hear they pay decent money to borrow your land for the time being. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
So.
But it's going to take it a while to get it. the money you make's you probably put half of it back into fixing your hay field.
Yeah. But, all right. Well, let's get back into our topic here. Talking about just building, using plans that were not meant for the location.
Correct.
That's pretty much it, right? You know, and again, this comes from a set of plans that Randy had to bid on, and
well, I really couldn't bid on it.
Well, okay, was looking to bid on. But okay, let me ask you this: if you were in Wilmington or close to the Outer Banks, would Randy Blake be able to build this house there?
Probably not on the coast, but away from the coast.
Okay.
Because it is standard construction down there.
Okay.
And but here, you know, if a wall gets so high, and you have to backfill it, then you have to put so much concrete in that,
right? Or
make the wall wider,
right?
Okay. Well, at the coast, you generally don't have any backfill against your foundation, all right, because what you see is your concrete slab,
right? Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. So
we got to deal with, like you said, we got to deal with cold. We got to deal with freezing, okay? Right. And I still like to put my top of my footer 2 foot underground.
Sure. And but it calls for what? What's the code call for?
You can get by with a footer with 12 inches of soil over the top of it.
Okay.
But it's like I asked the state engineer, I said, so you're telling me it's never going to freeze again, do we have to go back to putting water lines 3 foot underground?
Right. I mean, it used to be the thing. So, fair.
Well, like Beach Mountain, the water lines are 6 foot underground, and they have froze.
Yeah. Well, when you are looking at, these architectural plans, I know, like, the trusses and stuff, we've talked a little bit about that, how, like, they've got to be designed different. When it comes to, like, roof pitches and things, I know we need to be steeper here in the mountains, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it is, but we can build them all the way from 312 all the way to 18, 20, 12. Okay. But you have to follow the steps forward. So let's think about a 312 pitch on a house 30 foot wide.
Right.
I mean, that's not a steep pitch, but the point of it is it's still going to be the rafter length is still going to be exceeding what the length of that. The house is 30 foot wide.
Yep.
You do the math, you divide it by 2, you got 15 times your multiplier, like 512, 1.125.
Right.
And that tells you your length, okay?
Right.
So it's actually going to be a shorter length on a 312, but
sure.
But it's still in this house, even with an LVL, the rafters are so long that they're going to be bulging the walls out. How about?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It'd be looking like an egg.
Yeah.
You know, your exterior, your end walls are going to stay the same, and your center walls are going to bow.
Yep. By the way, that's the A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's what you just did there, isn't it?
No, I just read that.
No.
But yeah, there is math in all of it. We were looking at a job. We repaired a job, Beach Mountain, about 4 years ago, and the codes weren't very strict in the 60s and 70s.
Sure. Yeah.
In the 70s, generally what your building permit was the amount of receptacles you had in your house. But that was the first time in my whole life that I'd seen number 3 floor framing joist. The joist.
Wow.
So I'm talking about
number 3. That's like knots as big as your thumb.
No, knots
big as your hand, really.
Yeah. There was one knot that was probably the size of a half-gallon jug.
Yeah.
And a couple of them had already started to run after all these years. So we had to go in and put jacks under them and get the glue the cracks back up. And then we went ahead and sistered.
That's what's getting ready. She sistered the joints. Or sistered the joist. Yeah, that's crazy.
And think about Beach Mountain. It holding up all these years with all the winds they have and all the freezing.
And the snow and yeah.
Well, wood was a lot stronger back then.
Fair. 100%. When you get that tighter green stuff. But knots are still knots.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, well, as a contractor, you get a set of plans. How much freedom do you as a contractor, without getting it engineered or anything else, like as far as like I hand you a set of plans, how much as you as a contractor are you allowed to change those plans? In other words, adapt those plans to work.
Realistically, I don't.
Okay,
because we're not designers.
Right.
We're builders. The designer is supposed to put all the math into it and stuff.
Right.
Now, like, I would change, like, subfloor. Mm-hmm. All right, if you go put hardwood floors down, you can use OSB.
Right.
Okay, which as good as I do, nailing down floors, OSB would be fine.
Yeah.
But if you're going to put laminate flooring in the house, then you want to change over to another product where you don't see the lines where the joints get together.
Yeah.
So let's say you put your subfloor down with OSB, okay, and then it rained for a week.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
All right.
And then you got both of those where those butt ends are. You got a big TP thing going on.
That's right. And so if you go in there and take your belt sander and sand,
I've done that many times.
Sand your joints, but that's on a dry joint.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And but then again, you come back and see where it swells so far, it crushes the end grain on it, and that's what causes it to stay up.
Yeah.
All right. Now with sturdy floor, 3/4 inch, made out of yellow pine, and it doesn't swell like OSB does.
Right.
And then you can go with Advantech, now which is $25 a sheet higher than OSB.
Right.
That has a 90-day guarantee that it won't swell at all.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful because you got to stay on 16-inch sanders on it, because if you don't, your floor squeak.
Gotcha. Well, I still think I don't care what product you put on. If it's mine, I want to get it covered up with something as quick as we can. I don't like it exposed to any weather, because any moisture you put on, you got to take out.
Correct.
But that's just my thoughts. So,
no,
all right,
that's a good thought.
Let's take a break. We'll come right back right after this.
This June 14th and 15th, step back in time. Witness history come alive at Defending the Homeland, the Lee County Resolve, a Civil War reenactment in Pennington Gap, Virginia. Follow the legendary Wilderness Road as the Confederate Home Guard stood firm against the Union forces. Experience the bravery and the resilience of those who defended their homeland. And the best part, it's a free event for spectators to come and experience the life in the Civil War. Don't miss this powerful portrayal of Lee County's pivotal Civil War story. Defending the Homeland, the Lee County Resolve, June 14th and 15th in Pennington Gap.
That's right. All about home construction here on WATA. And again, thanks to everyone for listening. Don't forget, a couple hours from now at this point, right? 3 o'clock this afternoon, go on over 3 to 7, head over to the VFW and get some good old steak or salmon or whatever it is you like. They got all sorts of stuff. So head on over there for the dinner tonight. I think it'll be a good time. So.
Yep. Well, we're going to try.
Good. So, talking a little bit about just sort of plans made for the wrong region, essentially, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So I get to wondering though, like local inspectors, I guess. How does it work with the plan? Does a local inspector have to actually approve the plan, or do they just have to make sure that when it's being built or as it's being built?
You submit 3 sets of plans to the state, all right, and they review them. They want to review them before you start construction.
Yep.
Before we had the IBC code, different people come from different states and build up there, and a lot of them was underbuilt because they built them for their codes in their area.
Yeah, right.
Well, North Carolina is one of the few states that has 2 extreme wind loads. Mm-hmm. The coastal area, and then we have the mountains here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Florida has wind loads down there too, 150 mile an hour, but they still don't build as strong as we do here.
Right.
And then you got Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Their codes, everything has to be treated.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, with treated lumber,
because of termites and stuff.
Yeah. They have the Formosa termite down there that still eats treated lumber.
Right, okay.
And I forget how many billions of dollars a year was lost in it, but when you go to treated lumber, it's yellow pine that has been fertilized, and it doesn't have the strength that spruce does that's grown out in Canada. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you have to upsize your treated lumber.
Yeah.
And we have a house now that we've been helping a guy with that's built in 1885.
That's awesome.
That we're going to probably have to replace the floor joists in and put treated in it, because once it gets so deep, it's open underneath. Only the back of the house is sealed. The whole front is open. So if you dig too deep in the ground, every time it rains, he's going to have a pond underneath his house.
Yeah.
So you have to do a little thinking on it.
So I guess my point with the inspector thing is, though, like, this set of plans that you were looking at very well may have passed in, like, Wake County or something like that. But just because it passed there in the state doesn't mean that Watauga County is going to pass it.
No, they would have kicked that back and said get an engineer involved.
That's cool to think about. I mean, I guess again, that's why we talk so much on All About Home Construction about our local builders, right? Like, not to say that we're the best builders, like no one else can build a house, but we know what the conditions are. We deal with it day in and day out, and again, and we wouldn't want you wouldn't want to take a regular construction crew from Watauga County and take them to the beach and build a beach house, right? Like, I mean, we know it works both ways. Is what I'm
yes,
trying
it
to say.
does.
But it's just, I don't know. Especially with all the rebuilding and remodeling and fixing going on, there's just a lot of people coming in.
I worked on a log cabin that's built probably in the mid-'90s. I mean, it was a nice log cabin, long log cabin, and it had 4 by 6 rafters, which, that was how the log cabin company engineered it. But they were long rafters, and they had the collar ties in it. But the collar ties were so high, and there was no baffle wall inside the house, and that eventually the house sagged, just like I told you about an egg.
Yep.
So they had to come back in, and they had to take come-alongs and pull the walls all back in.
Yes.
So here you are pulling come-alongs on the top of the wall.
But not.
And so you have to do something to pull the middle in at the same time. And then they had to put collar ties that went from the top of the logs to each side. So that was probably about another 35-foot wide building. All
the old popping and cracking, I could only imagine.
And but another thing that happened was as the house spread, the gable end walls twisted.
Makes sense.
So one wall was 7 inches out of plumb.
That's wild.
Well, it's just Mother Nature and weight. See, people don't take into consideration, well, I know I got to have a beam here.
Yeah.
Well, if your beam extends too long, the weight of the beam itself will cause itself to sag.
Of course, yeah. Well, and that's the problem with people trying to go back and I mean, all these videos you see on Facebook and YouTube and stuff, like, where people have come back in and just tried to beef something up. It can't be beefed up, right? I mean, in other words, you
Correct.
Can't just go into the attic and start adding, 2x6s and to build up something without what's below it, because you gotta support all the way to the foundation.
That's right.
Because that transfer goes all the way down until it can't go any further.
Well, that's the biggest point right there.
So that's always fun to watch.
Well, my thing is, always put enough support under anything you build. All right, most older houses, they're already here.
Yeah.
They have some issues over time. My house has 2 by 6 rafters on it. It has collar ties on it, but they're all the way up real high. But the rafters should have had a knee wall that goes down through the center of the house. And so when you look at my rafters, there is about a 2-inch sag in the rafters.
Wow.
But where we took, and a lot of that was we talked about before, we had 3 layers of shingles on it.
Yeah. Right. Again.
So you're looking at
yeah. So
and so we put metal on it, which metal will actually help strengthen it.
Right. Because it's sharing that load.
But that's one thing I hoped it never did, was expand back up and try to straighten itself up, because then it would be causing stress on the screws and cause them to elongate the holes through expansion contraction.
That's it. Crazy stuff. Well, all about home construction here. Hopefully people enjoyed the show. Don't forget to get to the VFW today at 3 to 7. Get that steak dinner and eat Randy out of house and home today. I encourage everyone to get out there and challenge you to make Randy cook every piece of beef he's got.
Well, be patient because it takes a while to cook.
Be patient, but
32.
still, get over there and make him run out. I want to see him running around like crazy. Because he sold out of steak. So, fun stuff. Well, have fun doing that, Randy. Enjoy it. And I guess we'll talk to you next time around. So, take it easy. Thanks for listening to us. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Again, we really appreciate you tuning in to another episode of All About Home Construction here on the podcast. We truly appreciate you joining us every week.
Absolutely. It's listeners like you that make this show possible and keeps us motivated to bring you the best home construction tips, insights, and stories.
Hey, so if you're enjoying this show, we would love for you to help us out and spread the word. Share this episode with a friend or on social media. Anyone who might find our tips and advice helpful.
That's right. And if you want to go the extra mile to support the show, consider becoming a patron. Your support helps us keep producing great content week after week.
Yeah, so just head on over to the link at the bottom and check out the different support options. Every little bit helps, and we've got some fun perks lined up for our patrons as well.
And thank you again for being part of All About Home Construction family. We can't wait to keep building with you.
That's right. Thanks a lot.
Thank y'all.